what do you think this means for him now?
Huh?
Like, what do you think this means, like, for the rest of his career, his legacy, what people are going to remember him for? Because now you got to think about it. He's a common denominator. What do you think about it? We're talking about
Russ?
OKC's and guys that have been gone, like Jeff Green, James Harden, Ibaka, Kevin Durant, Paul George, Deion Waiters was supposed to be one of those guys. Victor Oladipo was supposed to be one of those guys. And for some odd reason, all those guys had to leave, whether by free agency, by their own team's will, like Kevin Durant, or had to be traded, like Victor Oladipo, because him and Russ couldn't really
mesh,
be like Vic couldn't be Indiana Victor with Russ, whatever. So does this Paul George trade put like a permanent stain on it? Where
for me, I think this puts a stain on Russ Westbrook, and I think at this given point, you have to look at yourself in the mirror. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, all right, it's me. I'm the problem. It's not anyone else, because it's what it is. You arguably had two of the best small forwards ever, KD and Paul George, and you just named the list of players.
Russell Westbrook, I think a change of scenery is needed, because there's nobody like, as far as higher ups are concerned, or anybody in that organization that can really tell Russell anything.
I agree.
Russell, he's one of those players that's going to give you his all every single game, and he's done so much in that organization, and he's got so much seniority in that organization that majority of the higher ups don't even want to. I guess it's hard to coach, not necessarily coach him, but like put the force on him, because it's nobody. It takes a certain type of coach to coach Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
It takes a cerern type of ownership and leadership up top to handle a guy like Russell Westbrook, and he's been unchecked ever since he's been in the league.
Yeah.
Just unchecked.
It's been
and
unleashed.
if you go, sometimes you need to taste the humble pie. You're not going to get it in a situation where nobody's going to tell you.
You still think
you're not wrong.
You still believe that Westbrook can be a piece on a championship team?
Yes, for sure.
I think
Westbrook is one of the few players in the league that gives it his all every single game. I don't care what this is. He gives it his all. He didn't have his. The problem with Westbrook this year.
Him to D-Wade.
The problem with Westbrook this
his
past year.
His greatest gift is also his greatest flaw.
Yeah, like the problem with Westbrook this past year was his shooting.
He'd be doing too much.
Just one gear.
He normally was a better shooter than this, but he wasn't shooting very well this year, and it was his downfall.
I think what bugged PG, and I think what bugged like Kevin Durant, was the whole the things that Russell gets himself into these situations where I'm just like head scratching. Like the ego battles, the one-on-one battles he has on the court, especially like playoff time. Like he lets his emotions get the best of him. For example,
Dame Lillard, we saw that.
Not only Dame, he let that get to his head, but a guy who should have been a nobody to you. You're talking about Ricky Rubio. Remember that series against Utah? And he was calling him out. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna strap him up next game." Wound up getting in foul trouble. That same game, like Russell Westbrook has this tendency, or like when it matters most. Yeah. He is the most erratic he'll ever be. Obviously, 110% effort. No question about that. Hardest work. That's why I said all entertainment team. You want to fill the butts in the stands. You got no other players. You got a bunch of G League players on an NBA team. You put Russell Westbrook on that team, they're going to compete for a playoff spot. Yeah. Guaranteed. Because all of the he's gonna dominate the ball. Go through it. But my point is, when it comes to playoff time, Russ going to be Russ. Like, I mean, I thought it was so. Honestly, thought the most crucial thing that proves that to me was the 2016 Western Conference Finals against Golden State when you were up 3-1 and you squandered that. Yeah. KD, yeah, but a lot of it was Russ, and he was handling the ball late in games. Like, how do you squander a 3-1 lead when you're as loaded as they were that year? People were making an argument that from top to bottom, OKC's roster was better than Golden State. Yeah, I said that as well. I said they were going to beat Golden State.
That OKC team was special that
Yes, they were. Special. I thought they were going to win the finals. I picked them to win the finals. Yeah.
They were that good.
And they were right there. And then Russ going to be Russ. And I feel like at the same time that affects KD to some certain extent. It's not just a coincidence that KD went to Golden State and he started making all these clutch threes and these clutch buckets on LeBron James in the finals. When the note on him prior, like playing with Russ, was like somebody who just couldn't get the job done. It's like, it's not a coincidence that he found that in Golden State. Granted, the supporting cast like helped the stardom there, but again, as I mentioned, that OKC roster was nothing to sneeze at. Exactly. Okay, and that's just what I mean about Russ. He'll get your hopes up. And I love Russ, and he will do that. And
We've seen how great he can be in the regular season.
Dude,
we don't question what he can do in the regular season.
And their playoff games where he shows it too.
Is where we need to see it.
I've seen it. I've seen it in the playoffs as well.
Yeah,
like he'll have. He had a game in the 2012 finals where he had 40 plus.
Yeah.
Okay, against the Heat, and he literally it was all transition mid-range jumpers.
Yep.
All of them transition mid-range jump. And for some odd reason, he lost that touch. He lost the free throw touch. He had a career worst. He was like in the 60s, bro. You're a point guard. Saying
what it is now,
he was at 80+% free throw shooting, and then he went to 60s, and he shot the worst percentage of his career coming off that season when he had Paul George playing his MVP season. That should free you up for easier shots. There was a lot of times where I don't know. It just felt like he missed a lot of easy shots. He just wasn't making shots last year.
But now we see how point guards are now in this league. It's not like a pass first.
And he's 30, and his game is based on all athleticism. These are the things that I'm questioning.
I will never forgive Sam Presti
For Harden?
For Harden.
Okay.
Never. You had Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Serge Ibaka, Young coming up together. And you literally let him go for $4 million?
Yeah.
That was the only difference.
Yeah.
I'll never forgive him for that. Because that right there could have been what the Warriors were. That could have been the dynasty.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That would have been it.